Howdy lads, welcome back to a new video. Yes, it is finally that time. It is time for my 2025-26 Premier League predictions. This was the first video I made on this channel, my 24-25 Premier League predictions during the midway point of the season. We reacted to that video, we had a lot of fun, obviously. We have to do it again. We predicted the Championship, we predicted the Pro League. If you want to see those videos, they're back on my channel, Project Pundit. But without any further ado, let's get straight into this video with the number 20. In at number 20, I've decided to go with Burnley. I'm really sorry, Clarets fans. The thing is, Burnley just haven't impressed me at all this summer. Kyle Walker is an okay signing, a leadership figure I suppose. You've kept hold of Maxime Estève, but Trafford has gone to City now. CJ Egan-Riley has gone to Marseille. Brownhill has left the club, so there's a lot of holes in that strong squad, which got you second in the league last season. I think most Burnley fans even expect them to finish 20th. Rock bottom, back to the Championship. I'm sorry, Burnley fans. In at number 19, and immediately we have one of my first controversial picks. It's Wolves. And Wolves normally is a team which shouldn't or won't be in any relegation conversations. But I'm gonna be completely honest with you, in my estimation the owners kind of lack the ambition to keep their club afloat because they simply invest in the squad when it's absolutely necessary to invest in the squad, and when it turns out they are struggling massively in the league, they panic and they buy just about enough to keep themselves up in the league in January. But I feel that that strategy can't keep on working forever. I see a lot of strong squads down at the bottom of the table as well as at the top end, so you're going to have to be incredibly competitive to stay in the league this season, in my opinion. Hence why I've decided to go with Wolves in at number 19, even though I quite like their midfield. I just think lots of inexperience, no real star quality to turn the game around. 19th it is. In at number 18, let's not waste too much time on this. It's Sunderland. Yes, you thought I was going to say Sunderland would stay up this season, but no. They've had a pretty impressive window so far. Obviously, Granit Xhaka is a mind-blowing signing that's coming from a Newcastle fan. I have no idea how you managed to get that one over the line, but let's have it right. Granit Xhaka is a passing midfielder, not a destroyer. Neither is Habib Diarra. He's more of a ball-carrying midfielder, so you do have to get a destroyer or a 6 still in that midfield, because that can't be Daniel, in my opinion. And the centre-backs have to be upgraded as well, because right now it's Ballard and O'Neill, which is Championship quality at best. I think one of them can rotate in and out of the starting 11 during this Premier League season, but if you're starting week in, week out with both at centre-back, you're gonna get run over by nearly everybody apart from maybe Burnley in this season. So I'm quite confident Sunderland will still invest in those positions, but as things stand right now and as their squad is right now, and even with those additions, in my opinion, I think they're still going down. But like Ipswich did last season, they are setting themselves up to come right back up and be competitive yet again and maybe stay in the league long term. In at number 17, of course I had to say Leeds. I can't predict all 3 promoted clubs to go down for the 3rd season in a row. That would be so devastating for the league. And I don't think it's going to happen this season. I think Leeds are doing some very smart business. Bornau looks like a great signing. Mecha, squad depth. Anton Stak looks like a really good signing, as well as our boy Sean Longstaff, who is just bags of Premier League potential. Premier League experience, and also the engine and the physicality to work at this level. So I think they've deepened out the squad incredibly well. There were also some exciting aspects to that squad already, and they're also the only promoted club who haven't really sold any of their big players. Think Joe Bellingham, think Ben Watson, although he wasn't really a big player for Sunderland, but still he scored in the playoff final, so he was definitely someone. And when it comes to Burnley, think of Brownhill, Estève and Trafford, obviously, like I've mentioned before. Leeds haven't done any of that. They've kept all their names together. think of Joe Rodon, Will Gnonto, guys who were there last time they were in the Premier League. They are still there, got a lot more experience under their belt, and 2 back-to-back 85 plus point seasons for Leeds, so I think the confidence will be high as well. 17. In at number 16, a team who everybody was really hot on at the end of last summer. Now that seemed to have died down, as well as their, not maybe necessarily ambition, but free spending power has died down. I'm talking about West Ham. West Ham have the quality to be at least a mid-table team. Look at the likes of Paqueta. Obviously, Mr. West Ham, Jared Bowen, Wan-Bissaka is pretty great in my opinion. They've just signed our boy Callum Wilson, so that's some experience up top. But reports are they have to sell in order to sign, mostly due to the kind of summer they did have last summer. And the only real additions they've brought in this season are Diouf, who looks like an exciting left wing back, Kyle Walker-Peters, who is okay squad depth, Callum Wilson, who is hopefully for them squad depth, and they have had to bring in Todibo on a permanent for over £40 million. So that's a lot of money spent, and in my opinion they haven't really gotten a lot better. So a lot of question marks around this squad and a lot of eyes on Thomas Frank this season. In at number 15, I've decided to go with Brentford. Brentford are one of those teams everybody is picking to go down this season, and I know why. Obviously, Thomas Frank is a huge loss, probably, or most definitely, even a bigger a loss than Nørgaard was, than Mbuemo is, than most likely Wissa will be. I think Thomas Frank is the one irreplaceable guy in this team, but they haven't really replaced him. They've brought in someone who's worked under him, knows what Thomas Frank was doing with this team in Keith Andrews. Okay, Andrews does not have any Premier League experience at all, which is a worry, and it is even a problem in my opinion. But I do just back Brentford to be alright. I think their recruitment is fantastic. They have been one of the best run clubs in England, full stop, over the last couple of seasons. Every single summer they've sold their best players. Think about Watkins, Benrahma, back when they were in the Championship, Ivan Toney. Everybody always thought Brentford would eventually get worse, and they haven't really. I don't think they are going to rip up any trees this season, but I definitely don't think they will be relegated. So I'm saying Brentford 15th and Keith Andrews doing a solid job, shall we say. Now, I think most of that table, or most of that part of the table, will include around and about the same teams when it comes to everybody's predictions. This is where it gets tough, however. This is where it gets really competitive. My number 14, I decided to go with Nottingham Forest. Now this is a controversial pick, because we are talking about a Nottingham Forest that not only went all the way for Champions League last season and competed right until the very end, but have managed to qualify themselves for Conference League football. But they massively overperformed last season, especially the likes of Chris Wood massively overperformed. I don't think he's going to be bad by any means, but he won't have the overperformance he did last season. A lot of what Forest will be doing this season will be reverting back to the mean, in my opinion, which probably is around and about mid-table when it comes to their finish. But what I think is going to drag them down a little bit further down the table is getting far into that Conference League, because let's be honest, Nottingham Forest have to go far in the Conference League. It is a competition which any Premier League side that qualifies for has to be one of the favourites for to win, so they will go deep, or at least want to go deep in that competition, and I don't think they have the squad depth to deal with both Conference League football and Premier League football. So I think after February they are going to drop a lot of points and finish in 14th position. 13. Everton fans, how are you feeling about this season? The transfer window has kind of been a weird one, because Everton have now moved to their new stadium, and that came with a lot of ambition and a lot of excitement. I think Barry is an incredible signing for them. He's 6'4", he's young, he's strong, he's fast. I think he has all the attributes to succeed in the Premier League, and we could be looking at someone who will be making a big money move next summer or the summer afterwards towards a bigger Premier League team. But Everton are going about it in the right way, looking for the right kind of players, but they've not brought them in fast enough. They haven't been able to bet any of the new signings apart from Barry and Azanu, I think it is, the left back from Bayern, which they signed. Apart from them, they haven't really got any players who could have helped them through pre-season, because David Moyes openly talked about them just kind of having to sputter through these pre-season games because they don't really have the squad to compete with those. And that squad is still going to have to be deepened out because a lot of players have left Everton on a free. Mainly the likes of Calvert-Lewin, Doucouré, those will be the biggest names I think people are going to miss next season on Everton's bench. But they haven't really replaced any of them. And listen, the moves with Dibbling, Grealish, Fofana, Kubo, they're all exciting, but you just need players. You just need a couple of players and then maybe deepen out that talent depth in your squad. In 12th position, I've decided to put Fulham. Well, Fulham haven't really done anything this summer, but that also means they haven't really sold anyone of significance this summer. They are now being linked with a massive money move for the Brazilian winger Kevin, which I think could be a really exciting addition to this Fulham side, bringing in someone with a lot of creativity, with a lot of skill, so you give another dimension to that attack. I'm a really big fan of it. Apart from that, apparently Muniz is going to be the starting striker and Raul is going to be his backup for the coming season. I think that kind of makes sense given the age of both players. Bassi is still there, Iwobi is still there, Robinson is still there. I think they are going to have a great season yet again. Unfortunately, I don't think they will push into the top 10 because that's going to be a bit more competitive than it is or was last season. And they just haven't really brought in enough players to kick themselves on, especially in the middle of the park in my opinion. But Kevin, great signing, Fulham will be absolutely fine. 12 in the league. Okay season. In at number 11, I've decided to go with Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth will be sad that they got back-to-back seasons where they were pushing for the top half finish but didn't get there in the end. But come on Bournemouth, you've lost pretty much your entire defense. Kepa is now gone to Arsenal, Zabarni is off to PSG, Dean Haase has now gone to Real Madrid, so that's a lot of change. Kerkez to Liverpool, so that's a lot of change in this back line. Senesi is still there, Trefer has come in, which is a signing I really like. Petrovic has come in, which is also a signing I really like, but they still have to replace Zabarni. They have been linked with Diakite and probably will get him over the line, which is a fantastic signing again. I would bring in one more centre back to compete with Senesi and Diakite, but it is great to see them replacing that defence adequately. And I also think Tyler Adams will have a massive role to play for Bournemouth in the coming season, especially in the way they break teams down right before their defence and set up a counter-attack straight away, because Tyler Adams has the physical capabilities for doing so. So yeah, Andoni Iraola is still there, great manager. I'm looking forward to see Bournemouth play next season, yet again. We've come into the top 10 and our first admission, which is the number 10 obviously, has got to be Crystal Palace. Congratulations on lifting the Community Shield. Crystal Palace players, Crystal Palace fans, massive performance against Liverpool, showing everybody people have probably been a bit too afraid of Liverpool over the summer, and I mean following up the first trophy of your history with a straightaway second one, yeah, that's just great stuff. Apart from that, Oliver Glasner is a really exciting manager in my opinion. If he makes the season through with Crystal Palace, maybe 10th even is a bit of a low estimation. But again, I'm looking at the competitiveness of the other teams in the league. I think Crystal Palace probably will still lose Mark Guéhi, maybe even Eze to Arsenal. That rumour isn't going away anytime soon. I can see that happening like maybe a couple of days before deadline day, with Palace having to scramble to get in a replacement. But that still is a really good squad. Mateta is great, Sarri is great, Adam Wharton is absolutely unbelievable. 10th place finish and back-to-back seasons where they break their 40 to 50 points curse. Number 9, one of the biggest jumps up when it comes to my table or my table for the coming season and how the table did end last season. I've gone with Man United, and I'm gonna be honest, if I did record this video 1 or 2 weeks ago, Man United would have probably been lower in this table, which is, I mean, it's quite shameful for a club with the stature and the size of Manchester United, but apart from that, I think it's a pretty realistic shout, because there are a lot of weaknesses in this team and they haven't really addressed any of them. At this moment in time, Manchester United have spent 200 million on their attack, which, if you look at last season and their lack of goals scored, looks like something they should have done, but I think Højlund didn't necessarily have to be replaced. He needed someone with a lot more experience from whom he can learn. Apart from that, you needed these wing fielders like, for example, an Eberechi Eze, who can play in the number 10 but also can drift out to wider areas. I think Mbeumo and Cunha don't really fit that mold, along with the fact that both Mbeumo and Cunha are the two players to overperform their XG the most last season in the Premier League, and the fact that Cunha walked the most out of any player in the league last season. Now, those can be misleading stats because some people will just throw them in your face and have you sit with it, whereas, I mean, if you're Matheus Cunha and you're the guy at Wolves, it's not necessarily strange to run a bit less. But if Amorim gives him the instructions to work harder, to run more, who's to say he can't do that? My problem is more so in the fact that Man United have now spent 200 million in attack, but have not fixed any of their other problems in the squad. And you didn't finish last season in 15th position just because your attack. The midfield is still a massive problem. They have now been linked with Carlos Baleba, which is exactly the kind of player they should be looking for, but I don't think that's realistic for this summer, partly due to the fact that you have already spent 200 million in positions you didn't really need. Your best player, Bruno Fernandes, is now going to have to move one line back because you have 3 new massively expensive attackers who have to play, meaning Bruno Fernandes is one of your 2 players in the double pivot, and I don't think the player you are looking for who can partner Bruno Fernandes in a double pivot in Ruben Amorim's system exists. I don't think that guy is a real player. You have to be looking for someone who is comfortable with picking the ball up from deep, who can do all the defensive. You are basically looking for a Rodri extreme, and not only won't Man United be able to sign someone who is a Rodri extreme, who is that guy?
Who the fuck is that guy?
I mean, that player just simply doesn't exist. So Bruno Fernandes in a double pivot, I think that only works in the Liga NOS or the Portuguese league. So Ruben Amorim is probably going to have to do some tactical tweaking to make this team work. I saw Xabi Alonso doing very interesting stuff with Real Madrid, where Tchouaméni was playing in a back 3 but in possession moved up into the midfield, meaning they played with a back 4 and 3 midfielders again. I think something like that could maybe work for Manchester United, but as things stand right now, people are just going to run through their midfield yet again, just like they did last season. 8th position. My prediction for 8th is Aston Villa. Now, Villa fans, don't shoot me please. You have to admit, your squad is weaker, a lot weaker, than it was at the end of last season. You haven't really sold many players, but a lot of the big name players or important players towards the latter end of the season have gone. They have left because they were only on loan, and I mean, for the likes of Rashford, Asensio, Disasi, you've chosen to not sign them on a permanent, which is absolutely understandable. Asensio I probably would have signed on a permanent, but Rashford's wages just aren't realistic for a club like Aston Villa. And then it's a smart thing to walk away from a deal like that. Evan Gissan is a fine signing, I think, but in my opinion, this Aston Villa squad will most likely have all of their focus on winning the Europa League and getting back into the Champions League via that back door. Also because, I mean, let's have it right, Unai Emery is an absolute expert when it comes to the Europa League. So I do think there's a big chance Aston Villa win the Europa League, but their focus on it will mean their league form drops off towards the end of the season and they finish in 8th. My number 7, and probably a big surprise to a lot of you, but it shouldn't really be a surprise because they are probably the single best run club in England right now. It's Brighton. Brighton and Hove Albion. They've done some really interesting stuff yet again this season, bringing in the likes of Karalampos from Olympiacos, which is a really exciting young Greek striker who could be the long-term Danny Welbeck replacement because he does match in a lot of the physical features that Danny Welbeck has. But the real big and exciting signing for Brighton is Maxime de Kuiper from Club Brugge. He is such a great left back. If Fabian Hösler gives him the freedom which he's given him in pre-season and which Nicky Haye from Club Brugge used to give him in the Belgian Pro League, he is going to be an assist and goal machine down that left hand side. He can overlap, he can cut in, he can create. He's a really well-rounded player, and I think being coached, being developed in the Brighton setup is also a massive positive for the Belgian national team, who haven't really seen a great left back in a decade, 2 decades. As for Brighton, however, I think Danny Welbeck could still have a great season. I think Yankouba Minte, who, I mean, it hurts me as a Newcastle fan to see this, but I think he's going to have a blinder of a season as well. There's just so many exciting talent when it comes to this Brighton squad. It looks like they're keeping Baleba. It's 7th for me, and 7th without any cup winners shenanigans. 7th will probably get you Europa League football, which is European revenue and an extra competition to develop new young players in, which is just great if you're Brighton. Now, joining Brighton in at number 6 in the Europa League for the season afterwards, I've unfortunately had to say Newcastle United. I've seen nearly everyone predict us to finish 5th, which is exactly where we finished last season, and I think everyone would take it because given a few good performances in Europe, that most likely will get us Champions League football next season as well. But as things stand right now, I can't really see it happening. The Isaac situation, I mean, let's not talk about that too much. We all know where we are at, where he's at, how much he's kicked up a stink. That's going to have an influence on the squad either way. Thiaw has now come in, which is a great signing in my opinion. Elanga is a pretty good signing, but we lack sorely in squad depth, which we are going to feel massively when the fixtures get congested come December, January, and especially given our European fixtures. But also, I struggle to see past our plan A. We have a lot of players who are devastating on the break, but a lot of teams can see that, will sit deep against us, and I don't know how we will unlock those deep defenses yet. So I foresee a bit more of a struggle for us in the coming season than we did have last season, unfortunately. But that number 5 position has to be filled by someone. And I think people are sleeping massively on my biggest jump probably ever compared to the season before in a predictions video. In number 5, I've gone with Tottenham Hotspur. Now, back-to-back Champions League qualification for Tottenham Hotspur, this time via the league, would be an absolute massive victory for them. But my reasoning for putting Tottenham one position above us and back into Champions League qualification is twofold. First of all, I think they won't have the injury issues they did have last season because, I mean, Ange just is a nutcase in that facet of his game, and their defenders had to cover so much ground all of the time, meaning their bodies just probably got fatigued, and that's why a lot of them got injured. Second of all, Thomas Frank. I genuinely believe after Guardiola, Emery, how he really has a claim to be the fourth best manager in the league, in my opinion. What he's done with a cost-wise not competitive squad with Brentford to constantly, continuously keep them in the league season upon season upon season is absolutely insane. His man management skills are through the roof. He's such an intelligent speaker both to his players and towards the media. Tactically he's up there with the very best coaches, and I think he's going to get Spurs' defense to be really solid and just shoring up both the backline and the midfield so people just don't cut through them like a knife through butter. That's already going to help them with picking up a lot of points. But Kudus, Solanke, and now their links with Savinho, that's a really exciting front line if you're a Spurs fan. I think Tottenham are going to be scary good next season, because I mean, over pre-season we already saw a way more defensively astute Tottenham Hotspur than we ever did over the last 2 seasons, and the fact that Frankie has already coached that within them over a month, yeah, I think people are really sleeping on Tottenham Hotspur. Thomas Frank is such an underrated managerial appointment. But now, it is crunch time. The top 4 is here, and my number 4 position is going to be Chelsea. Now, Chelsea fans, it could genuinely be higher this season. I don't think it's going to be lower than 4th, because you are one of the 4 best teams in the Premier League, and I think this season, for the first time maybe ever, we could see, at least until January, February time, a 4-horse title race, which is absolutely incredible stuff. And Chelsea have impressed massively in the Club World Cup as well. Look at how João Pedro came in midway through and ripped those 3 last games up to shreds. Look at Liam Delap, who is a completely different profile in the striker role than João Pedro, which is a great addition as well in my opinion. You've got Gittens and Garnacho probably playing on the left. You've got Palmer. I mean, I prefer Palmer on the right, and Estevao. You still have Nkunku and Xavi Simons probably in the number 10. That attack is absolutely devastating. Losing Levi Colwill to an injury is really bad for them, especially given the fact that I think Hato has been brought in as left back cover, not necessarily as centre back cover, because I don't think he has the height and the physicality to be a centre back in the Premier League. But Chelsea will most likely sign another centre back. The real reason I don't have them any higher in the table is because I think the squad needs to settle, needs to get to know one another, and then maybe can push for a title next season, which will be absolutely scary. My number 3, and out of all my picks this video, I think this one is going to get the most hate, and I'm looking forward to it already. I've decided to go with Liverpool. Yes, the Liverpool Football Club, who have had such an amazing window and who might still be signing Alexander Isak. I've not even got them I've not got them winning the league. I've not even got them finishing 2nd. I've got them finishing 3rd. Now, here's my reasoning towards why. As I said, with Chelsea, I think we're going to get a 4-horse title race for quite a while, but people are acting like this title race is a foregone conclusion with Liverpool, and that's just simply not the case in my opinion. This is the first time we're going to have to see Arne Slot coach his own team, because he's not just copy and pasting what Jurgen Klopp, his predecessor already left behind for him. He's going to have to bet in a lot of new signings, a lot of different ways to play and different teams to unlock, different ways to unlock an opposition's team. I'm not saying he's not capable of doing that. I'm just saying we haven't seen him do that. So it's kind of a let's wait and find out. Apart from that, people always make the mistake, in my opinion, of saying this team won the transfer window, so obviously they're going to do well in the next season. And you only have to look at West Ham last season to see that that's not necessarily always the case. It takes time for players to bed into new teams, new environments, get to know their teammates, get to understanding the patterns of play, the running patterns of their teammates. That's very not only difficult, but it's different every time you make a move. And winning a transfer window has to set you up for more than just the season coming next. Winning a transfer window, like for example Liverpool are winning this transfer window, means they get Florian Wirtz, probably one of the best players for the next 10 seasons in the Premier League. Kerkez and Frimpong, two players who are really young, so you don't really have to worry about your fullbacks for a long time, apart from maybe bringing different profiles and squad depth. You see what I mean? It's long-term thinking which has meant Liverpool have won this transfer window, but not short-term thinking. Because I would really like to know if signing both Wirtz and Isak, I mean, I don't think it was Liverpool's plan. I don't think they went into the summer knowing they would be going in for both. I think it's more so a market opportunity, and what I would like to know then is if this is a market opportunity born out of some money they had left over somewhere, just in case something happened with one of these two players, or are they allocating funds which they had previously set aside for different targets? Are they now allocating that towards Alexander Isak to pay for him, therefore ignoring those other targets? Because if those other targets are a centre back and a number 6, I think those two are much more pressing needs than Alexander Isak or just another striker for Liverpool. Looking back at the Community Shield last night as well, Liverpool were very strong attacking wise. They create overloads everywhere on the pitch, everywhere. Soboslai, Frimpong, Wirtz were making themselves available for touch and goes, so that was really exciting stuff to see. But Liverpool kept on getting caught in behind pretty much. Frimpong and Kerkez were too high for most of the game, meaning Van Dijk and Konaté kept on seeing Sarr run by them or Munoz run by them, and I think Van Dijk pretty much had a stinker as well, but that's going to be fine. The problem is Liverpool's centre-backs last season, Van Dijk and Konaté, had already so much work to do constantly, and that's only gonna get worse in my opinion with Frimpong and with Kerkez. I think Conor Bradley is kind of going to make up for that, but not enough. I think Liverpool are going to win a lot of games next season with 4-3 scores, maybe drawing 3-3, and that's ultimately going to cost them the league. So we've got number 2 and number 1. I suggest we'll just cut the bullshit and I'll tell you straight away why I have got Arsenal winning the league next season. But before I do that, let's talk about City first. City at number 2. They've had a really exciting window in my opinion. Ryan Cherki is a great signing, Aït-Nouri is a great signing, Tiani Reinders. I really don't like the player, but if he would have gone to any other team in the world apart from Manchester City, I would have hated that transfer a lot more than I do to Manchester City. Because I think if there is one player who can give you optimal output of Tiani Reinders, it is Rodri. And Rodri is now missing the start of the season, which is kind of a bummer. But apart from that, I mean, Cherki is going to absolutely explode this season in my opinion. I think Jeremy Doku, this is the year where he either takes a step forward towards genuinely starting to contribute to this City attack, or I think they will be looking to move him on next summer. Haaland is still going to be top scorer. I think it's City's defense which is really scary. Gvardiol and Ruben Dias are an amazing looking partnership on paper at least. Gvardiol is a fantastic young centre back who has mostly played on the left back slot for Pep Guardiola teams, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him now in the centre-back role, given Pep Guardiola has finally brought in a more out-and-out fullback in Ait Nouri. I think City are going to be defensively solid. I think they are going to be hard to beat again next season, and I think they are going to score a lot of goals. It just won't be enough, and let me tell you why. I believe Arsenal Football Club will win next season's Premier League title. It has to do with their transfer window, and I mean, I know I've just made a whole spiel about why Liverpool's transfer window doesn't necessarily mean that they will be title favourites next season, but I think Liverpool and Arsenal both have had insanely good windows, but very different windows, because Liverpool have nearly only brought in players that are supposed to start week in, week out for their club, whereas Arsenal have brought in Gyökeres, which is a player you expect to start every single week. But apart from that, maybe only Zubimendi is really the starting 11 player, or week in, week out starting 11 player, which is completely fine in my opinion, because you're not ripping up any scripts, you're not really doing anything all too differently, so players should know what they are getting themselves into. But when it comes to the way Arsenal will play football next season, I think we're going to see a lot of goals from Arsenal. Saka is a fantastic player. Gyökeres through the middle will score bucket loads of goals with the amount of creativity around him. Noni Madueke or Martinelli on the left hand side as things stand right now. Madueke can also cover for Saka on the right because he's more so a right winger. But Madueke is absolutely in love with the penalty area, and that's something you can't knock him for. Martinelli, useful sometimes in my opinion. This is most likely the season where he has to step up or go next summer. But that midfield, Martin Ødegaard, if he can up his decision making speed, I think he's going to have so many options in front of him with possibly Eze, Madueke, Saka, Gyökeres, Havertz who can crash into the box late. He will have so many options to play through, but the one part of Arsenal's game which I think will cement their place as title favourites is that Rice Zubimendi double pivot. I think that's going to be so unbelievable next season. With Zubimendi's game control, he dictates the tempo of a game like... I mean, he is a metronome to the same degree as Rodri is, just without the defending. But you have Rice for that defending, and it's not like Zubimendi is a defensive slob, he still puts in the work. Rodri is just pretty exceptional on all fronts. But Zubimendi and Rice next to one another, interchanging with who's creating, who's running forward, who's bombing on. I think that's massively exciting, and I know it's an out there prediction because Arsenal perennial second place finishers, but this is also the season where they have to win something in my opinion, because if they don't, if they turn out empty-handed at the end of the season yet again, I think Mikel Arteta's job could be in real danger. But it won't be if my predictions are right. Anyway, that was the end of the video. What did you think of our prediction or my predictions? Please be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your predictions as well down in the comments. And be sure to like and subscribe to all our socials, Magpie 24/7 on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you know the drill. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.